What's up, guys, to another reaction video by MIZTATAINMENT. Again, I'm by myself. I miss the boys, but we've got to do these reactions, whether it's me, SG, or Richie. We've got to do them what we've got to do them. There's a video that just came out earlier on today. It's of Piers Morgan and Dan Bilzerian. It's a very controversial one, and I thought, you know what, let's react to it, get it out there, and see what everyone has to think about this. Guys, if you like this video, subscribe, comment, like, support the channel, guys. We need your help. Okay, let's get stuck into it and see how controversial this video gets.
Well, I mean, I've pretty much stopped posting on Instagram. I haven't posted much in 4 years. And like I said, I don't really care that much about social media except for, you know, speaking about things that I think the world needs to hear and that a lot of people are scared to say.
Well, I want to make a note of that. What do you think of what he just said now? Are people scared to say things that they believe in or they might think might ruffle a bit of feathers? Do you even think that's fair? I think people should be able to say what they feel, as long as it's in some form of, I mean, if you don't go too much past the boundary, you know what I mean? If it's the most simple things that you can't say, I mean, we're in a bit of trouble, as a society. Let's keep going.
Let's talk about some of that, because you've been very vocal about Israel in particular. You know, even when Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, was killed by the IDF, you were out lauding him as a hero. You know, to most people, he's the despicable head of a terrorist organization that perpetrated on October the 7th one of the worst terror attacks in modern history. What's heroic about that?
Well, I think when you look at it in a vacuum, it's a very different picture. It's kind of like if I, you know, raped your mother and I kicked you in the nuts 3 times and then you punched me in the face and everybody just wanted to focus on you punching me in the face. I think that that would be a very different conversation than when you looked at it, you know, the whole of what happened. And the whole of what happened was Nakba. You know, that's where it started. You have 750,000 Palestinians that got displaced. And then you've got multiple.
So before anything, Nakba was something that was done in, I think, 1948, when 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their lands. But the person they're talking about, Yahya Sinwar, was the leader of Hamas. Like I said, depends where you are in the world. He is recognized as a terrorist from a terrorist organization. He did die. The IDF did get him. And I thought I'd just say that just for people that don't know. Let's keep going.
Well, you know, acts of terror, in my opinion, on Israel's side that would make October 7th look like nothing. So to me, I think it was a retaliation, and I think that Hamas is a resistance organization, and I think that Israel is a terrorist.
When did Israel kill 1,200 people in a...
Well, he's called Hamas a resistance group and the IDF terrorist. Note down in the comments what you guys think about that.
A single day and wound nearly 7,000.
Well, I mean, you have, you know, I mean, Nakba, there was, you know, what, 15,000 people killed during Nakba. I mean, there was Sabra and Shatila. I mean, that was 3,500 civilians. Then you have 2014, they killed 1,500 civilians. 500 plus were kids. I mean, so any one of those days would have been much worse than October 7th, but nobody really talks about
those
that.
Didn't happen in single
days. And October 7th is not nearly as bad as what they say.
Well, those didn't happen in single days, as you know.
Well, I mean, you have, I mean, Sabra and Shatila, I mean, that was 3,500 people, so that was basically 7 October 7ths. And October 7th, I think the numbers get inflated a lot too, because you're not taking into account that it was only 650 civilians, and there was the Hannibal Directive that was employed, and the Hannibal Directive is when the military is basically killing civilians so that they aren't taken as hostages. And you know, that had to be hundreds of people, so I would argue that it was less than 500 civilians that were killed. And to me,
that's some pretty intense stuff he's saying there about what happened on this October the 7th. Guys, comment it and see any information that Dan Bilzerian is saying, fact check it, on both sides, the side of the IDF and what Dan Bilzerian's saying?
That is much less than what the Israelis have been doing to the Palestinians.
But you said
even the year when October 7th happened, they had killed hundreds of Palestinians that year. It was the bloodiest year for kids. So that was a reply to what had been happening.
But when you say that October the 7th wasn't as bad as people have said, what do you mean by that? Because from Hamas's own boasting through their GoPro cameras, they mutilated, burned alive, raped and abused, beheaded some people, set fire to homes. They kidnapped babies. They kidnapped Holocaust survivors, grandparents. They did just about every act of depravity it is possible to do. And they didn't just do it. They gleefully posted it on social media and the internet so that we could all watch in real time the horrors that they were perpetrating. It's hard to imagine a more horrific act than what happened that day. Why would you try to downplay it?
Well, I mean, there was only 2 babies killed from what I was told, and one was in the hospital, and the other one was shot by a bullet. There was no babies in ovens. There was no, beheaded people that I saw. The rapes were disproven. So all that was Israeli propaganda. And the problem is Israel has continued to lie and lie and lie, and they've been caught lying. And they're the only ones that have actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners. And they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them.
You guys decide about what he's saying. But I do remember after October 7th, 8th, 9th, 10, 11, the story of the mutilated bodies and the babies and the assaults, if you get what I mean, was wild. It was on every media outlet. It was crazy. You could not escape it. Now, what he's saying, fact check these, but it's interesting at the same time because the numbers have been going down. I think they found out that the military personnel, the thing that he's talking about, what happened with the IDF soldiers, how they sexually assaulted prisoners, there was a bit of a... Guys, check it out.
So I think it's very hypocritical to focus on things that they're doing and then try and blame them, on Hamas or the Palestinians.
It's interesting because
it's just, to me, total bullshit. It's just Israeli propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is bullshit propaganda from the other side. Fair point. And the reason I say that is you say there was no raping or abuse of women, and yet the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, reported in March this year that there was clear and convincing information that Israeli hostages in Gaza experienced sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, and reasonable grounds to believe such abuse is ongoing. There was also reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the 7th of October attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape in at least 3 locations. So when you say it didn't happen, what you're really saying is you think that the United Nations report into all this, which established it absolutely did happen and was horrific, is what? Is a pack of lies? And if so, why would the United Nations lie?
You don't know, Dale, like October 7th, yes, there was some people that weren't part of the military or IDF that were on, like they were off duty, partying. To say that none of them got killed by Hamas, that's a bit of a stretch. You know what I mean? Completely, they didn't kill anyone. You can't be saying that. That's all I'm going to say.
Look, I wasn't there, but I have, seen articles that said that it did not happen. So, if it did happen, that's terrible. And I think that's, atrocious. I don't ever believe in rape, but, during, Sabra and Shatia, there was a, girl raped in front of her father. And, that's happened on the other side numerous times. I mean, it happened in the prison. I mean, they were literally rioting because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. So to me, I think it's...
I don't know about that. To be honest with you, guys, like I always say, check these out. Check all social media platforms, X. I'm not sure about TikTok, but if you could look at TikTok, Insta, Look at all the news against and with. And check that out, what Dan Bilzerian's saying.
It's a bit hypocritical. You can't believe that you have the right to rape prisoners and then complain about them raping, your civilians as well. So I don't think it just can only go one way. I think it's atrocious on both sides.
Yeah, it is.
You
it's
said
100%
Hamas are not terrorists, they're an army fighting for their country against the worst terror organization on the planet. And yet Hamas were given power in Gaza in 2005. They were given billions of dollars, a lot of it in a very suspect manner by Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, because he wanted to create a rift between Palestinian groups, and I completely accept.
Isn't that a bit funny?
That. But there's no doubt from what has now emerged that Hamas spent most of that money not on benefiting the lives of Palestinian people in Gaza, but on building an elaborate tunnel system and arming themselves to the teeth so that they could perpetrate this act of horror on October the 7th in a strike against Israel that they hope would decapitate Israel. I'm just curious why you would go out of your way. You say you've read things, but you're a guy of big influence. You've got a big following, 30-odd million people on Instagram.
Wow, 30 million.
With respect, and I say this respectfully, I understand why you want to support the Palestinian cause, and I'm sure there'll be many points of agreement we would have on that. But just to say, well, I read somewhere there were no rapes and abuse, it doesn't seem to me like you've really studied, or perhaps don't even want to study, the facts about all this, because it would go against your own narrative. Would that be fair?
You got to always be careful with Piers Morgan, because he is, I think, the best or one of the best at asking questions like that. It's either loaded or it's a trap question. And he goes really, really smart about it. So props to Piers Morgan when he does that.
I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight, Piers. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Muslim. I'm just saying what I believe is right. And let's just say there was rapes. I mean, I think that's terrible. But like I said, they are, an occupied state, and they're operating in apartheid. So when you are kept in an open-air prison, there's going to be resistance. And how that resistance manifests itself is, it's going to be violent eventually. I mean, if you kill enough people and you take enough land and you treat people like second-class citizens, and and you're stealing land in the West Bank, and you're just basically, encroaching these people's human rights on a daily basis, there's going to be repercussions. So, I'm not going to be the judge or jury, and I'm not going to condemn these people for fighting back. I think nobody had an issue with, South African apartheid and their resistance. So I don't know why there's an issue with the resistance in the clear apartheid that's going on here.
You went on a Patrick Bet-Davis podcast. He's a friend of this show. You said the Jews killed JFK and that Israel wanted October the 7th to happen so that Israel, had a reason to take the land.
Wow, big words.
Let's just discuss those two things. What do you mean the Jews killed JFK?
The Jews killed JFK. The only thing I'm going to say is evidence. But let's see what he says. I'll let you guys decide.
So I believe that was an Israeli Mossad operation. And they've committed multiple false flag attacks. I mean, they've, the USS Liberty, you've got the Lebanon affair. I mean, so they've got a history of doing this. And I don't think it's crazy to think that they were involved in that assassination. And that's the reason that Trump didn't want to, release those files. And I think clearly it had to be embarrassing. Otherwise, why wouldn't he want to release it? And that's the only thing that I could think of that would be embarrassing, because everybody from that time is pretty much dead by now. So it would make sense. I mean, they wanted to cut off, it's now AIPAC, but the Zionist, organization that was doing all the funding that should have been registered as a foreign entity. And, he wanted to register them under FARA. He wanted to, take away their ability to have nukes. And, they didn't like that. So I believe.
So what he's talking about is JFK apparently, he was going to change AIPAC, which is a lobby, into a foreign entity. It's a lobby in America for the Jewish, for Israel. And usually every lobby is a foreign entity except for AIPAC. So he was trying to change it, and this is the conspiracy that comes out, that these people were responsible for JFK's death. Allegedly.
They killed JFK.
But just to be clear, I mean, you have absolutely no evidence that any Jews killed JFK.
There you go.
Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's not true. I mean, Jack Rubenstein, that was the person that killed the supposed Patsy Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, he was a Jewish mob guy. And, there's been numerous documentaries tying the, Jewish mafia, the CIA. I mean, look, I wasn't there, but everything that I've seen evidence-wise points to Israel.
Really?
And they're doing it in Epstein Island. They did it in Epstein Island. I mean,
Yeah, but here's the problem I have with this.
So one thing he might trap him in, okay, is when he always says, okay, I haven't seen it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I haven't seen this, but I read this. I haven't seen this. Piers Morgan might trap him in that one.
You say everything you've seen, right? It just seems to me like you see a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. I've read a lot about the JFK assassination. There is zero evidence that any Jews killed John F. Kennedy. Zero. Unless you want to go off into some mad conspiracy theory rabbit hole. And I say to you that you make these big statements and you have a huge following of people, many of whom will think, well, wow, if Dan Bilzerian says it, maybe it's true. And that way, I would argue, this is how a lot of conspiracy theory stuff in the end gets propagated and promoted to the detriment of society, because people like you who are very smart, there's no question of that, and very successful and made a lot of money being very successful. I'm just curious why you want to be so inflammatory without actually having any evidence. And as you say, to just sit back and say, well, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Told you.
Obviously, I wasn't even born. But I know that there's no credible evidence that Jewish people killed JFK. And yet
And that is the truth. When you look at it that way, there is no evidence. You know what I mean? If anyone can put in the comments, if you're going to be watching this, who actually created that word, conspiracy or conspiracy theories? Where did that idea come from? Look it up, search it, see when this word started coming about, who invented it, and for what reason.
Just say it as a fact, as if somehow we should just believe this.
No, I didn't say it as a fact. I said that's what I believe. And if you look at, the history of people that have criticized Israel, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, JFK, Nixon, they all have similar fates. And so I don't think that's a coincidence. I also think that today a lot of, quote unquote conspiracy theories have all come true. So,
some of the conspiracy theories have come true. What do you guys think of that? Think about in the last, let's say, 7, 8, maybe let's say 10 years, and see what conspiracy theories were out there, were conspiracy theories, and that if you said it 10 years ago, how much of a madman would you sound? And tell me if any of those conspiracy theories have come true. And that if that's just shocked you or surprised you, thinking that maybe some person with a weird hippie hat and some dream catcher was talking about this 10 years ago, or you're thinking, come on, man, seriously, as if that's going to happen, and it actually came true. Just think about some of the conspiracy theories.
About, 2-3 years ago, being a conspiracy theorist, you were a nut job, wacko, whatever, and now it's just like every single one of them seems to be coming true, coming to fruition. So I don't know. I think once you see the government lie to you on a scale like they did during COVID, you start questioning a lot of things. And I think it's healthy to question things. And I think one of the big reasons why...
I'll stop it just for 2 seconds. I think it's very, very healthy to question everything. I think it's very, very healthy to have a good debate. I think it's very healthy for people to agree and disagree. Like a respectful debate, very, very important. You might not even agree with him. You might disagree with him. But now you have an understanding where they're coming from. So you will respectfully disagree instead of hating on each other. That's very important.
I've marched down this path so far is because once I started questioning Israel and once I started speaking out against Israel, I saw the ramifications and I saw the pushback. And the side of right is usually never the side that's silencing people. The people that are on the right side of history are not the ones trying to, cut off free speech or punish people for what they say.
To that point, what Dan Bilzerian said, people on the right side of history, would they silence others if it goes against them?
I think the Jews killed Gaddafi as well.
I guess, Israel. I think that they have way too much control in our government, and I think it is not coincidence that everybody that's been critical of Israel has, either been overthrown, Shah of Iran, like every single person that's been critical of Israel has either been killed or thrown out of power. And I don't think that that is a coincidence. I mean, the reason we fought a lot of these wars is because of Israel. I mean, Israel lied to us. They told us that there was weapons of mass destruction. We fought many wars on their behalf. So their influence cannot be, disputed. And the people that we continuously fight just happen to be their natural enemies, and they have influence on what we do. And that's my biggest issue. That's actually one of the reasons why I kind of started marching down this path, is because I see how much control Israel has over our government, and it's not healthy. And I see our politicians acting on behalf of Israel instead of on behalf of what is best for the United States. And that is, as a veteran, where I really have fucking, huge problems with this.
I'm sure you do, but when you...
What he said about how much influence they have on America, what do you guys think? Do you guys think AIPAC, Israel, has that much influence on America, maybe in the country I'm in as well, Australia, England, all these Western countries? Or is this just hocus pocus? What do you reckon?
Say that what was it you said? That the Jewish people said there were weapons of mass destruction. I mean, it was President Bush. He's not Jewish. It was Colin Powell. He wasn't Jewish, as far as I'm aware. What are you talking about?
I was having a good point there.
Well, I mean, you're talking about 0.2% of the population. So obviously every single person in there is not Jewish, but it is benefiting Jewish interests, and we are operating on behalf of Israel. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all of our politicians are Jewish, obviously, but what I am saying is that Israel has dirt and blackmail on our politicians. That's the only way to explain why they put the interests of Israel above our countries. And you see that. I mean, look, I truly believe that Epstein Island was a Mossad operation, and they have dirt on our politicians, and they've done plenty of these, and that is why they control our country. I mean, explain it out. Why else would our country be doing everything in Israel's benefit to our own detriment? Israel doesn't do anything for us. Why would we be doing that?
But we know.
He even pulled the Epstein card out. Man, all I've got to say is this one here, I think it's about a million views. It's only been 12 hours or 13 hours on YouTube. He is going all out, controversy. I have a feeling they're going to try cancelling him like there is no tomorrow.
We know why America and the UK, for that matter, Tony Blair, because I spoke to him about it at length at the time. We know why they went to war with Saddam Hussein in 2003. They went because they believed he had weapons of mass destruction. They were the ones who argued it. None of the senior people that argued it for America or the UK, in terms of Tony Blair, George Bush, Colin Powell, were Jewish. This idea that somehow Israel was orchestrating that war, I think, is completely nonsensical. I mean, my brother fought in that war for the British Army. He wasn't ordered into that war by Israel. It was a decision taken by George Bush and Tony Blair. It just seems to me that when people have accused you, if they have, of being anti-Semitic, this is the reason why. It's because you look everywhere for a reason to blame Israel for absolutely everything, even when there's no evidence that it was Israel involved in the actual orders that were taken. There is no evidence that Israel ordered the Iraq war. It was taken by George Bush's administration with the help of people like Tony Blair.
And see, that's the part where your argument, how as good as it sounds, and it might be true as well, when you don't have the evidence, that's the problem you always get stuck into, because then people won't all follow what you're saying, because remember, you got to see it to believe it. That's the issue we got.
Well, we went there because Netanyahu testified in front of Congress that they had weapons of mass destruction, which was a total lie. And it was.
There's a video of Netanyahu, I think it's in the 90s, late 90s. This is the video he's talking about. Guys, if you just want to Google that, YouTube it, you can. It's there. I think TikTok has it. It's all over social media. You know what he's going to talk about, you'll see the video. It's an old video.
A lie to benefit Israel, because that was an enemy of Israel. So what I'm saying is they're the beneficiary of what we are doing, and it's not in the best interest of the United States. So clearly they've got control over our politicians.
Yeah, to be clear again, though,
I'm not saying our politicians are Jewish. I'm saying our politicians are doing what they're telling them to do.
Fair point.
Right. Well, that's slightly different to what you did say. When you said on Patrick Bet-David's podcast as well, they play the victim card
Shout
so
out,
effing
Patrick.
much about Jewish people. I mean, do you not understand why Jewish people might feel a sense of victimhood, given that 6 million of them were killed in World War II by a genocidal monster in the Holocaust? Do you not understand why that might make Jewish people feel that, yes, they have indeed been victims?
He is saying some big, big words, man. So, like, you know, you're going to upset a community. There's one thing I do respect about Jewish community. They stick together. You know what I mean? They will come after you if you upset them. I believe that, you know, but my opinion, my belief, I do believe that. You know, they're very powerful, but they do stick together.
Yeah, I mean, that figure's been revised, but, you know, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to America. And I think it's the greatest threat to the world today. I truly believe that.
Some big words, man.
What do you mean the figure's been revised? What do you mean?
Well, they said that it was 4 million that died in Auschwitz, and then they said it was down to 1 million. So they've revised the figure.
Fact check this revision about what Dan Bilzerian's saying about it was 6 million, then 4 million, 3, and now it's 1 million at the Holocaust. That's a big claim and some big words.
Well, how many people? How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
271,000 that died in Auschwitz.
How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Wow.
Again, I simply ask you, Dan, what's the motivation for making claims like that? What do you stand to gain by trying to diminish what happened in World War II?
I'm just answering your question. I mean, I'm a gambler, so if I think that something is a low probability, then I would bet on it. And I don't know for a fact, but the evidence all says that it was less than 6 million. I mean, just the mathematics don't work. Like, you can't cremate that many bodies. Like, the whole gas chamber thing, it's a very ineffective way to kill people. So when people have researched this and they've done the due diligence, they said it's mathematically impossible.
That's actually very interesting. I feel for that Holocaust. Very bad what happened. Big event. Very sad event. But what he's saying, I want to look into it. And guys, you should look into it as well. Whether you disagree or agree, it's good to look at all this stuff. You know what I mean? But he's going down pretty hard, man.
You see, I'm sorry, but I just find that unbelievably offensive. And I'm not even Jewish. Again, there is clear evidence that 6 million people, almost predominantly Jewish, were killed in the Holocaust. 12 million were killed by the Nazis in total. They were a genocidal monstrosity of the Nazis who wanted to eliminate the Jewish people. And they tried extremely hard to do that. You said
12 million were killed?
The Nazis killed 12 million people in World War II. 6 million were killed in 6 million were killed in the Holocaust. Or do you not believe that either?
Okay. I mean, Jews have killed far more Christians. Well, Jews have killed far more. Let's just accept the 6 million figure. Jews have killed far more Christians than that. I mean, It's not even close. If you look at the Bolshevik genocide, you look at the Holodomor, I mean, they've killed way more Christians. I mean, they basically invented the genocide. So,
look this up, what Dan Bilzerian just said about the Christians and how he's talking about how they've been genocided as all the Christians. And that's what I'm going to say. Look it up. Look it up. This is a crazy one, man. He's gone all out.
They deny the Armenian genocide. Israel denies that. They've lobbied the U.S. to deny that. I'm Armenian. They killed half of my people. So, and I'm not offended by that. If somebody questions that, it's not some crazy thing. I mean, Israel denies the Armenian Holocaust. Okay.
It looks like Piers Morgan, honestly looks like, what am I going to ask him next after that? Because that's some heavy words he said, like, about the Armenian people. They suffered as well.
It sounds to me, Dan, like you do actually hate Jewish people.
No, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to the world today. I look at what they're doing in the media. They're pushing this transgender nonsense. I mean, and they did it in Germany, the first transgender clinic.
Wow. This guy is going all out, man. Jewish supremacy. They started transgender. Oh, man, I got to hear this.
Was opened by a Jewish guy. And I don't like this perversion pushing our children. I don't like the fact that 9-year-olds are reading about homosexual acts. I don't like that drag queens are reading them in schools. I don't like that Kamala Harris wants to pay for sex changes in prison so that men can turn into women and women can turn into men. And I don't like the fact that he's putting in, men into women's prisons, male rapists into women's prisons because they identify as women. I mean, it's just nonsense. I don't like, men beating up women in boxing and sports. I think it's all nonsense, and I think it's leading.
Just to add to that, what he just said about men beating up on women, 100% I agree with him in that. Especially in sports, anywhere, whether it's sports, outside sports, anything, any form of a man hitting a woman, it's a no-no.
A degradation of moral fiber. And if left unchecked, I think it's going to ruin the world.
But again, you're blaming Jewish people. Why?
Because they're pushing this.
What do you mean they're pushing it? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, they're controlling the media. I mean, the DEI is being pushed by BlackRock. BlackRock's execs are all Jewish. You look at where this...
BlackRock is a company, I think, that's worth about 20 trillion or something. It's insane. It's insane how much BlackRock is worth. They own like pretty much 80% or 90% of all companies around the world.
Is coming from. It's not a surprise.
Dan,
all the Disney execs are Jewish.
Dan,
they're pushing it on children.
Right? Do you accept, Dan, that you are just blatantly anti-Semitic?
Look, I have an issue with that term. I mean, I think the real Semites are the Palestinians. I mean, the DNA tests that they've done on the Israelis that are living over there, they're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. I don't even think they're actual Semites. They don't have ancient Hebrew DNA, which is why DNA testing is illegal in Israel.
Look that up, guys. Look on Google. DNA testing not allowed in Israel. It's illegal. I wonder why, guys. Have a look at it. Comment. See what you guys think about that. If that is true, that's kind of questionable, that one.
But, I mean, you're literally denying their existence now. I mean, you are just a brazen anti-Semite, aren't you?
Is he
you
really?
Hate Jewish people. You hate Israel. You hate the state of Israel, its government, everything about it. You're blaming them. You blame them in this interview for literally absolutely everything.
When you say, well, I think most of the problems today is caused by Jewish supremacy. I believe that.
Wow. What?
I'm on.
This guy, Piers Morgan, did not have anything to say for like at least 2-3 seconds. That's how stunned he was. And Dan Bilzerian is no way even letting it go. He's not even actually, like, there is no filter. This is Piers Morgan uncensored 100%.
See, gobsmacked that you would say all this publicly, given what a high profile you have.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a it's not a popular opinion for somebody that cares about money and cares about not being canceled. I mean, that's the problem, is you can say whatever you want against Muslims. You can be super anti-Muslim. You can talk about them and nobody cares. But if you say anything about Jewish people, you get canceled. They look what they did to Kanye. I mean, so why are they such a protected class? Let me ask you that.
On that point, I could say he's got a bit of a point, because, there'll be a lot of this Islamophobia, whatever you want to call it, Muslim hate. Not by everyone, obviously. I always believe it's a smaller group, but those voices get out and they're allowed to be out. But yet, for the other side, if you say one thing, God help you, you do get cancelled, you do get hammered by everything. It's like a system that comes after you.
Because you're literally blaming.
So you're literally blaming. With respect, let me finish. Not the other way around.
You're literally blaming Jewish people for almost everything that's happened that you don't like in the world. That is the purest personification of anti-Semitism right there. That's what it is.
Well, when you have a religion that promotes supremacy, when you have a religion that says that you are better than other people, and when you have a religion that says it's okay to steal from other people as long as they're not Jewish, when you have a religion that says it's okay to rape people that aren't Jewish, when you have a religion that talks about having sex with, kids that are under 3 years old, when you have a religion that promotes these things and promotes supremacy, I think you're going to have problems. And you see that in Israel. Israel's
man. That's some big words he's saying about a faith, a religion, Jewish faith. Don't know, have not read it, can't make a judgment on it, but he's raining down bombs now. He's raining down that's some big words, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's in their teachings or not. Guys, comment it like I always say, but he's not holding back.
The manifestation of that religion. And I think that religion is, it's terrible.
Wow.
I don't believe in white supremacy. I don't believe in Jewish supremacy. I don't believe in supremacy at all. And right now, I think you have massive Jewish supremacy.
You sound like a Nazi.
Wow.
I mean, why do you say that?
That's literally what Nazis would have said in World War II. They would have literally articulated their hatred of Jewish people and the reasons why in exactly the way you've just done.
I don't have a hatred for Jewish people.
You do?
I don't like a religion that says that they're better than other people. And what's that?
Well, you do. You obviously do. It's blatant. No one watching this will draw any other conclusion. I'm staggered about how brazen you've been.
Same.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that, and they're treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. They're treating them like subhuman beasts, and it sells that in their Talmud. So it says if you are not a Jew, that you are basically subhuman.
Talmud, guys.
And I don't think that Judaism and Christianity go.
Check the Talmud and see if this is even true what he's saying. But he sounds very confident. I've got to give one thing about Dan Bilzerian. He does not take the bait for screaming. He stays calm and says what he has to say.
Hand in hand. I mean, they believe that Jesus is in hell burning in human shit, and they believe the Virgin Mary is a whore. So I don't think those are two religions that really intersect very well. But, we've been programmed that they do, and we've been programmed that it's okay and that Jews are the chosen people, and I just disagree with that. I think everybody's equal.
Do you even comprehend how this interview is going to play out when it airs?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be bad. But, my opinion is not politically correct, but I believe that is the truth.
You're living in Qatar now.
Well, that's where I'm at right now. I'm not living here, but visiting.
Right. Is it the case that you feel safer to spew this kind of stuff from Qatar than you would spewing it in the United States?
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of Jewish people attack me since I started standing up in support of Palestine. When I started saying things that were against Israel, I found that I had my Jewish business manager tried to extort me. I had lawyers do things that were illegal, and I found a lot of just hatred from the Jewish community because I was speaking out against a genocide, and that really opened my eyes to what's going on.
Let's just say you don't actually support Hamas. You're just worried about the people there. And, I mean, should you still have the right to say what you can if you're just in support of innocent life actually being killed like that, 40,000 people? Can you actually be a spokesman and speak up against a government, whether it's Israel, could be China, America, Australia? Should you be able to criticize your own government and other governments?
Why Jewish
like I
people?
said, rarely is it the case that people on the right side of history are the ones that are trying to silence people.
Yeah, the reason Jewish people may dislike you is because of your obvious hatred for them and everything they stand for. I mean, you've literally spent the last 20 minutes, but also bemused as to what you think you'll gain from this, other than you're just laying bare your anti-Semitism for everyone to see.
I don't think I'm going to gain anything. I think it'll be horrible for me. But it's what I believe. I don't think that Jews like Christians, and you see it when they killed them during the Holodomor, the Bolshevik genocide. I mean, the Bolsheviks, the leadership was 84% Jewish, and they were just mass killing Christians, and nobody talks about that.
It's amazing.
Let me just ask you one more time, to be honest.
History books don't cover that.
Right, let me just ask you one more time, just for clarity. And I think you should be honest. But do you hate Jewish people?
No, I don't.
Then why do you spew such hatred about them?
Well, I don't like what they've done. I don't like what their religion preaches. I don't like what's going on in Israel. I don't like their influence over our government. So,
very confident on what he's saying. Do you think he's spreading hate, or it's just an opinion? It might be a strong opinion. He has the right to say this. What do you reckon?
You know.
What do you like about Jewish people?
I mean, I would say on average they're more intelligent.
That's it?
I mean, I don't have too many. I mean, look, you know, there's 2 billion Muslims, but everybody wants to, you know, promote this anti-Muslim, this hatred for Muslim, like they're all these terrorists.
Fair point.
I think the Israelis are the terrorists. I think they are the ones perpetuating the big acts of terrorism. And, you know, nobody wants to talk about that.
And what do you say?
Well. That is an insane interview. I just ended it there. Guys, what do you think? Should we have discussions like this? Is it very important to have people on both ends talking about how they feel or they criticize, let's say, a country like Israel, even a country like mine, Australia, America, criticize their governments, the actions they're doing? Should we allow, like, let's say, should we allow people to express their opinions as long as it doesn't go to the point where it's going to go really far, where it starts becoming, you know, it starts becoming hate crime? Do you know what I mean? I'm in full support of what anyone actually says. They have the right to have their own opinion, whether it's criticizing someone's faith, as long as it's in a respectful type of boundary. Dan Bilzerian, one thing I've got to give it to him, okay, is that he remained calm the whole time. There were so many loaded questions where he could actually erupt, and Piers Morgan's really good at that. But he actually kept his cool and just said what he had to say and just stuck to it. So in that sense, respect. Guys, you be the judge on this interview. Tell me what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, share the video. Until next time, guys, till we do another reaction video. Bye-bye.